What is up, everyone? It's your boy, a pig-ass truck, and today we're going to analyze the new beast banner, Kitsune and Wolfskin. But before we begin, allow me a little bit of time to vent about what is up with these long Yu-Gi-Oh-like descriptions for these beast weapons. Now I understand, okay, alright, yeah, you gotta tell everybody, hey, look, you turn into a beast while you're by yourself and around other beast units, and when you're not, you revert, and then yada yada yada, something extra stats and all these fun abilities that depends on which type of beast you are. That's fine. That part is perfectly fine, but they didn't need to explain the same rules over and over and over again, because it just creates a huge clutter, which just kind of looks terrible on the eyes, and it just makes things look overly complicated when it actually isn't. A beast weapon contains like 2 effects, and on top of that, transformation effect. But otherwise, it doesn't have to be like this. Now, alright, so I don't know if you guys have played Magic the Gathering. If you haven't, so here's one of the types of units that they have in the game. Like flying, for example. We'll use that as an example. So a flying unit cannot be blocked by anything else that isn't flying or has reach. Well, instead of saying this at each and every time in every card that they have, they just put in the description, flying. Now naturally, you know, people will understand after a little bit of time. In fact, some people just understand right away. But here in, in this game, you have these massive walls of text that you have to like get a scope to look at. Get like a little microscope to look at and be like, hey, yeah, so this weapon does this and that. Instead, they could have just removed that part and just, I don't know, put a word for beast on the top or something. Or they didn't even have to do that because they have the icon for beasts that are there already. So it's kind of unnecessary, in my opinion, to include all this text. But anyway, I blathered long enough about that. Let's get to the banner right now. So it's been a little while since I last did these solo. Let me know what you think about that over the podcast thing I did with Burke in the past. I feel like a conversational thing helps bring out topics better, but if people like it solo for whatever reason, let me know. Anyway, so for the first unit in this banner, we have Keaton. Now, imagine the sword heart, the Reinhardt with a sword, and he got kidnapped by Dr. Sakura, who proceeds to inject wolf DNA into him, causing him to grow into a horrendous beast that claws people to death. He literally fights with his bare hand instead of using his sword and rips people to shreds with his brave claws. That is Keaton. Now, a key difference is that thanks a lot for power creep, despite the fact that we lost 2 attack in comparison to the 11 might, I still can't pronounce it, Meister Shorts. Now, you have, oh wait a minute, hey, wait a minute, what the hell was I thinking? No, I apologize. He still gets the 2 attack back if he turns into a wolf. So if he turns into a wolf, he gets the attack back, and he has the 10 extra damage from the Wadao claws that he has on top of that. It's a wolf trait thing. So as you probably will realize by now, that different types of beasts carry different types of effects, but they all generally falls under which kind of animals they are, in which category. So wolves, like Nyla and Keaton and Velouria that we're going to be talking about later, all have this trait, in which they do 2 extra attack and do 10 more damage. Now, each time a skill activate is a bit tricky for him to begin with, unless he actually has something to speed him up along. Say, oh, I don't know, a quicken pulse or something like that. But after he got that off, he can start clawing at people with that special spiral, and he's gonna really tear some people up. I mean, 2 charges at the start of every turn is out of control. You're looking at, oh, let's see, an instantaneous draconic aura right there and then, and it's gonna hurt a whole ton. Problem with Keaton is that he's a rather one-dimensional character. You just walk up to people, and then you claw them to death. That's all there is to him. I mean, look, a red unit that walks up to you and tear you to shreds is a dime a dozen. A physical unit in a world full of people with high defenses is not all that interesting. Even with the whole Wadal built into his claws, if someone is so much going to run guard or something like that and he can't get his first skill off, he's pretty much useless on the field. Defense is much more emphasized to units than resistance. So he's not very interesting at all, and his strength is kind of questionable after a certain point. I mean, look, Swordheart is very powerful, but do you see him in the top tiers? No, because, well, the same reasons that I just explained. Still, I'm sure there are people who like him, so, you know, you feel free to use him as you please. He's still a very strong character. It's just that, you know, there are certain limitations for characters such as him. Alright, now on to the next one. Now Velouria. This one, I am much more afraid of than Keaton. So she comes into the field with -2 cooldowns to her skills, and on top of that, she gives the same thing to a unit that she supports with. So, I don't know. Say if she supports with Keaton, now Keaton's weaknesses are gone. He can just spam his techniques and then get Special Spyro, get it right back, and does the same thing again. It is exceedingly terrifying to have someone start off with 2 cooldowns. And then some. They're infantry, so they can add infantry pulse on top of that. So yeah, this will give maximum brain damage. With her around, you shouldn't be surprised to see entire infantry teams with their skills preloaded on turn 1. I mean, you could do it with infantry pulse before, but now you can do it much more cleaner. It is very scary. On top of this, you can do this with other units as well. Flyers, cavalry. All they need to do is get a support with Velouria. I am really afraid of Velouria. Velouria is a very scary character. The fact that she's also colorless means that she can tear into just about anyone she wants without regards of them being able to resist her. I mean, yeah, I guess you could use colorless. I mean, you could use Raven Dome, but yeah, Raven Dome. How often do you find? Oh, okay, you do see them kind of often, but still, if she can't do it, someone else can. But I think having a high skill damage is more than enough to rip even that to shreds. She's a wolf-type Pokemon, so she has that Wadal thing on top of that. So, I mean, come on, man. What kind of nonsense is this? We only just started having characters with 2 cooldowns reductions in their swords and in their ninja stars or whatever. Now, you have a character that not only has that and Wadal built in, but also could give it to someone else? Are you serious? What kind of power creep is this? This is nonsense. This is madness. So yeah, Velouria is definitely a character that I would look into getting if I were you. If you're interested in the whole strength thing, or you like little wolf girls with red riding hoods, that's something that you could look into getting. But otherwise though, man, I'm not pleased with this. Because our pal Navarre only just got his wonderful weapon that he could call his own, a special technique he could call his own with a Scarlet Sword. Now, he got power crept by a Ninja Star that does the same thing. Or was it a Ninja Star? I don't even remember. There was another weapon that does that. Oh, it could be the curtains thing. Or maybe it's the... I don't remember anymore. It's been a little bit. I don't even pay attention to it. The idea is that you can now pass it on to other people because it's no longer a prep weapon. And now you have this. Ooh! Poor Navarre, doomed to be, well, obscure forever. Anyway, yeah, I'm not looking forward to this thing. But at the very least, we don't have to worry about this being a problem for her supported characters, because thankfully, opponents that you find in the arena are not supported. Though, that could change in the future, and when it does,
expect to find horrible things like that and Korin running around causing tons of headache for everybody. And if you thought Velouria is scary, wait till you get a load of this one. So when I get really lazy for, I don't know, a Grand Hero battle or something like that, I run Eureka. And her Siglin gives her the ability to get extra stats on top of bonuses that she takes from her teammates. So she gets 12 to all stats, and she pretty much can solo most of the map. She rips them to shreds. Blue units, no problem. 12 to all stats is nothing to sneeze at. It is an exceedingly scary boost to just about any unit. It turns Eureka, a Gen 1 unit with like 26 base attack, into a horrifying monster. Now imagine this skill applies to allies within 2 spaces around you. That is the terrifying Kaden. Now he himself might not actually get the bonus. I think he just gives it to other people in 2 spaces around him. It doesn't matter. Whether he can fight or not, it does not matter at all. The fact that he can give this to the entire team is a horrifying thing. I don't know what the hell they were thinking when they decide that, oh yeah, allies within 2 spaces now could get bonus to attack, speed, def, and res during combat, which equals to the bonus that they already have from tactics, or, you know, visible stats. Tactics teams are very easy to run. So now you have that on top of this. It is very, very scary. 12 to all stats, very scary. Now, I don't know if this ability stacks onto Eureka's ability in of itself. It could, or it couldn't, because, you know, the abilities are similar. But if it isn't, the same exact thing, then you're looking at 18 to all stats. 18 to all stats. Very, very, very scary. Now, if she's summoner supported, 20 to all stats, plus 5 HP. If she gets supported by Korin, 26 to all stats. If she's plus 10, 30 to all stats. So yeah, with this character, you will break the game. You will quite literally break the game. There's no way around 30 skills. I suppose you could counter it if you can just disable them from getting tactics in the first place with Panic Ploy or something like that. But if you can't, you are in serious trouble. And you know what? Since this stupid thing gives it to other people, unlike Legendary Marth and Eureka, who has it by themselves, you can just, I don't know, give it to Carol or something. Carol with like his 50-something HP will most certainly not be easily Panic Ployed. So then all of a sudden you will have a completely invulnerable character running around with 30 to all stats, ripping people to shreds. That is Kaden. And you only need 1 copy of him to achieve this nonsense. So you bet your ass I'm gonna be pulling on this to turn my healers into horrible beasts. Now, thankfully, AI cannot put this to use properly. We should count our blessings with this, because AI cannot run this properly. I mean, they occasionally can, but you can't count on them to run it like a person would. But this thing will break the game, man. 30 to all stats is nothing to sneeze at. And you know what? Hey, guess what? Guess what? On top of this, when he initiates combat, he gets attack dev -4 on foe during combat, and foes can make a follow-up attack. What? If that isn't enough, he himself is a powerful unit. He can weaken the opponent, and then, just like with, Sturdy Impact, he can stop the enemy from making a follow-up attack. That's disgusting. This is an incredibly disgusting character. He could come with no other skills, he could be completely naked, and he will still be a horrifying monster. His speed res link, that can go straight into the garbage. He doesn't need that. Gold Beast though, now that is scary. He comes with a very, very scary set. Units within beasts within 2 spaces gets attack and speed +4. Huh, what is this? So now, well, okay, alright. The Erica example is a little different. Then other characters would have like 30 attack and speed and like 26 to everything else. But still, that is really, really scary, man. You can, I don't know, if they're not beasts, just give them like a drive speed or drive attack. I'd give drive attack, by the way. You have way too much speed with this setup. You would destroy anything in the game. If you thought Surtur was bad, this is far worse. You destroy the game. But thankfully, though, you don't have to worry about the AI doing it, as opposed to Surtur. Still, I don't know what the hell they're thinking when they made this. This can very much break the game. I cannot... If I'm gonna pull on this banner, I'm pulling for Kaden. And I think that's what I will do. I'm gonna pull him, and I'm gonna turn my healers into the most vicious, most horrifying thing in the entire galaxy. Because the healers, hey, there's 2 types of healers. There's ones that goes on horses and ones that walks on their feet. Well, then now you can easily get a tactics healer team going with this horrible guy, Kaden, in, and there you have it. A horrible nightmare that you can never wake up from. Well, okay, maybe you can, because you're the one using it. Because the AI can't. I have to emphasize this a million times. I am very thankful the AI cannot use this. As for himself, his stats could be 0 to all. He could just simply not fight. But, you know, he himself is a capable fighter in of himself. Luckily, though, his ability to inflict attack and dev -4 during combat is not the same as Tharja's Refine. It's not like something where units 2 spaces around Tharja would also suffer from this hex and lose their attack and speed. This is for him only. So we have that to be thankful for. Anyway, so that's Kaden, and I'm gonna summon for him. I will probably go ham for that. I'm going to see. I hate 4-person banner, but you know what? I'm going to summon for him. Just because of that stupid ability, and for nothing else. Alright, okay, enough of that. So finally, the last unit on this banner is Selkie. I'm sure a million people are looking... Well, okay, not a million. I know a lot of you are looking forward to Velouria and Selkie. Especially Selkie. I mean, look, she's a sexy fox girl. I mean, I heard that, you know, she's really not, like, all that important to the story. I never played Fate, so you can freely correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think she has much merit besides, well, being a fox girl. So, that aside, she also has, like, the most brain damage voice in the entire galaxy. If you haven't watched the preview video, allow me to enlighten you with this brain damage.
Tell me I'm good! Scratch my ears! Snuggle time!
So now that you've seen this, or heard this brain damage, you can easily tell that, yeah, Selkie, brain damage character. Like, I'm not sure which audience she's actually targeted for. Her voice sounds like she's making fun of furries, and, well, normal people think that she's a furry. So, like, who do you appeal to, you know? I don't know if I want to pull her anymore. I've heard people say this, and you know what? I can kind of agree. I don't know what the hell they were thinking with the voice acting with this. I've seen many characters ruined by, like, one way or another, like, through their voice acting, or they have giant eyeballs, or they look like, you know, a drug addict. Well, hopefully they, fix this in the future, but probably not. I mean, look, listen. Wah, and don't let the outfit fool ya is one thing, but this snuggle is another thing altogether. So please, I don't know what to do. Anyway, let's just talk about the unit in general. I gotta stop babbling nonsense. So Fox Kit Feng gives res +3. That's whatever. However, the most terrifying thing about this thing is that, oh, if your unit's res is bigger than foe's res, and if foe uses sword, sword, land, beast damage. So in other words, if they're melee, they could have just said that, by the way. They could have just said, oh yeah, if you're melee, You get a bonus to attack speed, dev, res equal 50% the difference between stats. So if you have more res than the opponent, you get more stats, equals to 50% the difference between them. So it does have a cap of +8 to each stats, but 8 to all stats, yeah. Oh hey, guess what? I'm partnering with Kaden. You're looking at 38 to all stats. What? 38 to attack and speed and 34 to all stats. Ooh, what just happened? Anyway, this is deplorable. Absolutely, positively deplorable. I am very, very scared of these characters, but at least she's not nearly as scary as Kaden. Kaden is in a class of his own. The fact that they can turn these units into horrifying beasts like that is out of control. Absolutely, positively out of control. Now, Selkie is more of a fighter than Kaden, but it doesn't really matter because a person's individual skills compared to boosting a whole army into a horrible monsters cannot be compared. Still 8 to all stats is nothing to laugh at either. Luckily though, she's a cavalry, I mean, like what? I guess, well, I mean, she's not riding a horse or anything. I guess she just walks on all fours. But, yeah, that's anyway, she's not gonna have like a million stats or anything like that. But once she has this rolling though, you better watch yourself. This is really nasty business. I don't know what to say about Selkie. I mean, like, yeah, the 8 to all stats is great, but you also have to consider that it only works with melee units. So you can't quite say, oh, you know, you have this omnipotent unit. That's what Kaden does to other people. For herself, you can't just slap on distant counter on her and have her, you know, rip range units to shreds as well. It doesn't work like that. And she can't just, you know, expect to have 8 to all stats to range units. So she's only fighting a certain class of units with brutal efficiency. But those classes of units also tend to have a lot of defense as well. So you might not actually kill your opponent even with 8 to all stats. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but 8 to all stats is not nearly as scary as 30 to all stats. You know this much. But, you know, it also is so dependent on the difference between your res. Now, a lot of characters these days, especially slow armor types, they started to have a lot of resistance on top of their defenses as well. So you're not going to run into situations where you're going to have 16 res over another person. And most importantly is that you have to also consider that the damage, the bonuses probably round down, like the way damages from Iceberg or like or other things are calculated. So usually what happens is that instead of doing 16 damage because you have 30, I'm just using Glaciers as an example, or an Iceberg as an example, and you know 50% of the units res. So instead of doing 16 damage because you have 31 res, you end up doing 15 instead because it rounds down. So you want to make sure that you have at least 2 or more resistance than the opponent. And finally, Selkie introduces a new series of skills called Sabotage. Now, Sabotage works by, at the start of turn, if any foe's res is less than or equal to unit's res -3, and that foe is adjacent to another foe, inflicts attack -7. See, the problem with that is that, well, the second ability is kind of a pain. You don't always see people adjacent to each other. And, I mean, I much prefer running Ploy over this. Ploy is on a C slot, Sabotage on a B slot. So, I mean, if it was a C slot skill, then I could see more use for it. But as a B slot, I don't know. I don't know if I really want to go and sacrifice a B slot for something like this that I could just, you know, use attack Ploy for. Especially since Selkie probably promises to have lots of resistance. It makes more sense to build her like that. I suppose I should also add that if I were to build her, I'd probably give her Fury. Honestly, you know, Fury is a good skill. People hating on it because it's so common, but it's such a good skill. It's because it provides visual stats increase so that you could ploy better. Now, I suppose you could say, oh yeah, now you could use Fortress Dev Res, which is not nearly as bad as the Fortress Res that we had before. But even then, it's kinda iffy. See, the thing is that characters like Selkie is more initiative characters rather than defensive. So you want to kind of go on the offense with that and try to bloody someone's nose. I don't think she's the type of character that'll sit around and just tank attacks all day. So Fury, something like that, where you just finish someone off and then you take some damage and then you just back off, is not a bad setup for her, in my opinion anyway. I mean, there are people like Soloers, for instance, who like linking. We had actually had an argument about that a while ago about, hey, what's, you know, Fury for characters for, you know, he doesn't like it. I, on the other hand, I think that, you know, Fury is a good skill. It's fine as it is. It's, you lose a little bit of health, but as long as you're not tanking an entire army, you're fine. You're okay. Of course, like I said, for soloers, their attitude's a little different. They think a little differently. It's like their brain works a different way. Me, I prefer to work in teams and unleash horrible techniques on other people. I mean, yes, I can have strong individual units as well, but strong individual units that work in a team is far scarier. That is why characters like Kaden is very valuable to me. I would want to get that, and I'll destroy just about any content in the game. But anyway, I ramble on again. I apologize. So yes, having visual stat increase makes it easier for you to deploy, and then the additional attack and speed that comes along with it will help you wreck your enemy and tear them into shreds. So anyway, that's about it for today. I thank you all for watching. Until next time.